Well, okay. That goes back a while to a person named Bionic Dance who didn't know much about logic and doesn't know much about philosophy. And even though she kind of gets it right from her particular way of looking at logic, it's not the right way to look at logic. Because what she does is this. She basically says there's, and by the way, she doesn't exactly relate it this way. You have to kind of parse it out. There's a universal set, and in the universal set, you have two complementary sets. You have everything that's in one set, and you have everything that's not in that set, the negation of that set, right? So if I have U as a universal set, then I have A prime, and I have A. So anything not in one set has to be in the other. Does it make sense?
Yep.
Either you're an apple, you're not an apple. Duck, not duck, right? Everything in the universe has to be in one of these two categories, for the most part. We're dealing with classical logic. Mm-hmm. So she argues that if you're not a theist, then you're not theist. And she basically says not theist means atheist. Aron does the same thing. This is a semantic argument at this point. It changes from a logical argument to a semantic argument because now they're saying that the not theist, we're going to call that atheist. So now you have a dichotomy between theism and atheism that's artificial because that's not exactly how it is in philosophy. But everything that exists must be in one of those two categories,
right?
Including rocks. Yeah. Okay, well, if rocks are not a theist, what's the only other category available to them according to their type of dichotomous relationships that these artificial relationships that they've self-imposed? Right. Well, so, then rock would be an atheist, right? That's how they're arguing it.
Yeah. So the problem here would be the false dichotomy between that there needs to be another dichotomy between atheism and non-theism or not theist.
Yeah, right? Well, the dichotomy there's a dichotomy between theism and not theism, right? That's true. Everything that's not a theist is not, anything that's not a theist is not theist, right? Yeah. So if I have a rock clearly isn't a theist because it doesn't have a position that God exists. So, okay, not theist. Now, in that subset, right, under not theist, you have different positions. One of them would be basically you'll call it a non-theist. Now, this is something that Aron, for some reason, doesn't do, and it's still a bad argument, but it's better, is limiting your scope. So non-theism only applies to persons, right? So it's just a person who lacks a belief, right? There's some problems with that as well, but he doesn't even do that in limited scope. He just says, no, you have a dichotomy, theist or atheist. And that's one of the problems with making these artificial dichotomies, because there's other positions. And this is why in philosophy you have theist who believes the proposition is true, you have atheist who believes it's false, and then you have the agnostic who doesn't believe either. Right? There's a more nuance there. There's basically a gradient. There's a granularity that they just don't have, and they say, oh, we're just going to throw everything into these one of two categories.